Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times talking horror books. And today I have for you my January wrap up.
It's coffee time.
Unfortunately, in January I only got to read 7 books, which is kind of less than I used to read per month last year. But also, sadly, it has not been the greatest reading month, and I think that's also why I didn't feel so motivated to read. I have been not in a reading slump, but I guess the books that I was reading did not match my expectations, at least most of them, and so I didn't feel that drive to keep reading them. But I'm here to talk to you about the 7 things that I read in January. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We like to rate our books with coffee mugs. It just seems appropriate. And also, we like to start with the lowest rating so that we always end up on the highest, on the best note. Permafrost by Alistair Reynolds. I picked this one up because it was a novella, it was short, it was sci-fi that included some time travel, and I heard so many good things about it. So many people loved this so much. So I just have to say it was just not for me, but I do not think that this is a bad novella or story at all. We follow humanity in 2080 and we had an environmental catastrophe that basically nearly brought humanity to get extinguished. So some scientists in Russia have developed a way to travel back in time to 2028 to try to prevent these events to happen, so kind of to save humanity. The things that I did enjoy about this book is the main characters, Valentina and Tatiana. I really liked their relationship, their dynamic. And I also liked the way that they use to time travel, which I'm not gonna spoil here, but there were also many other things that just didn't vibe with me. The major problem that I had with this story is that when I started reading it, I was not engaged. I kept reading, I was still not really into the story, and things started to get more and more confusing since this book also is not really split in proper chapters. Even though it really had a good atmosphere and I could see why some people really enjoyed this one, the fact that it didn't really have proper splits between, you know, timelines and things like that might work for some people, but for me it really made it overall really confusing and complicated to follow, which, you know, it just ended up, you know, catapulting me into this rabbit hole of confusion, not really being engaged with the story, and ending up considering DNFing it. But I pushed myself through it because it was just a novella, so I thought, you know, I could at least finish it and see if it would pick up for me, but it didn't. I had kind of a similar experience with this book as I had with Children of Chicago by Cynthia Pelayo, which was for me a little bit too info dumpy. And with this one, the problem that I had, it was there were many paragraphs and things focused on, you know, telling you things about the science involving the whole time travel and stuff, but it was a little bit info dumpy to me. It was just like copy paste from somewhere and just put it in there without really weaving it into the story. And I don't know, for me it was a little bit problematic. Maybe other people really enjoy those parts, I don't know. This is just my, you know, opinion. So yeah, this one sadly didn't work for me, but like I said, a lot of people really loved it. So if you like time travel, maybe you would like to still give this one a try. The Phantom Circuit by Austin Farmer. This book just came out in January and I was really excited to check it out because it combined a classic legend with technology. We follow 28-year-old Erica. She is a Lyft driver and she's kind of trying to move on with her life after her sister, or her famous sister, passed away, and basically she gets in touch with someone that is trying to put down her sister's Facebook account, and not only that, but somebody warns her about the legend of Bloody Mary. So we have here a story that is combining a legend that we all know and love, Bloody Mary, that has also been done many times before, but it's being combined now with social media and kind of giving it a modern twist in which we have Bloody Mary not through a mirror, but it's kind of an entity that you can reach throughout the computer screen, which is also kind of a mirror, I guess. So I really enjoyed that concept. The problem for me was that at the beginning I was really looking forward to discover the story of Erica and her sister, but at some point everything became so repetitive. I just felt like I was going on in a circle. It was like an endless loop, and I just kept getting so bored, and everything was explained over and over again. Every concept, every word was kind of, they needed an explanation for it, and it made it like so dragging that I was just not enjoying it. Another one that I considered DNF, but I decided to push myself through it because, you know, I had requested it from NetGalley. It was a new release, and I was kind of like, okay, just get yourself through it so that you can give an honest review on it, you know, and tell people what you thought about it. So I'm hoping, you know, that you guys, if you are interested in this one, you still might try to pick it up, maybe, you know, from your local library, or maybe if you can get it on Kindle for maybe not much money, because, you know, I would not particularly recommend it. But I also don't want you guys to say I'm never reading this one again. And when I give a review that it's not so positive, it doesn't mean that it's a bad book per se. It just means it didn't really work for me at all. I just didn't vibe with it. Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. Yes, I had a little bit of FOMO with this one. I had fear of missing out because so many people were talking about this one, and I thought, okay, it's also a short one. It was on Kindle Unlimited, so I decided to pick it up. And I could see, especially at the beginning of this book when I started reading it, I could see why so many people loved it, because it has such an amazing creepiness to it. Now we follow here a couple that decides to spend kind of like a weekend getaway in this cabin in the middle of nowhere. It's beautiful winter, snowed outside, so it's really atmospheric, and the author does a really good job at bringing you that atmosphere, that cabin fever kind of feel of being trapped somewhere, unable to leave because of the snowstorms. And the book started so strong, and there was so many creepy moments, and these are creepy moments that I love because it's horror that can happen anytime to anybody. It's something that can happen while you sleep, something that lurks outside of your window that might be staring at you while you sleep. It's all of those things that is so relatable to real life that we all feel kind of creeped out when we read it. However, the rest felt a little bit bland for me, and I had a similar feeling that I had with other books where it started to feel repetitive for me. I felt like we were going through the same scene over and over again, and that when it comes to the horror and the creepiness, even though it was good, I felt like I was not getting enough diversity. I felt like everything was the same kind of setup for a creepy scene, you know, so it's kind of like those haunted house movies where everything is the same scene over and over again, and then at some point it doesn't have that punch anymore. Now, another thing about this book that you should know is that it is not an own voices book, even though we do have here native folklore, and the author does address it at the end of the book and explains kind of his thought process and why he was scared of writing a book like this, and then he decided to go ahead. And he does mention that, you know, he didn't want this to be a book where natives are only used for the plot and just used for magic or folklore explanations. And to be honest with you, that's exactly what ended up happening here. The only characters that are native are only coming into the story when we need that explanation of something magical, something related to their folklore. So in the end, it kind of backfired, I guess, because he ended up doing exactly what he didn't want to do in the first place. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out. It's not something that extremely bothered me, but I did feel like the author was trying to avoid something, and then he ended up doing exactly what he was trying to avoid. Moving on to All These Bodies by Kendara Blake, and I had mixed feelings with this book. There are many things that I loved about it, but then it also had some cons, so I would like to talk about this. So we are in 1958, it's summer, and dead bodies keep appearing, and these dead bodies are basically drained of blood, but near them there is also no blood on the streets, no blood anywhere. So why are these bodies drained of blood, and who is killing these people? Now we jump forward to September. A family is murdered in their own home, and there is only one sole survivor found at the scene, Marie. The police at the beginning think that she is a victim that survived, but she is covered in blood and it's not her own, so she ends up becoming the main suspect of the murders. That is what happens at the very beginning of the book, and after that, honestly, nothing much happens. This is just kind of an interview of a true crime story kind of thing, and there is nothing much that is going to happen. So if you're expecting a like action-packed book, this is not going to be for you. We follow Marie as she's being interrogated about the murders, and we also follow Michael. He's a boy that aspires to be a journalist, and Marie kind of takes a like on him, and she says she's only going to talk to him. So the interviews are between Michael, the boy, and Marie, and we kind of go through a little bit of Marie's life throughout the interviews and about the murders and all of that. But honestly, it just felt so slow paced for the most part of the book. It did catch up just a little smidgen at the end, but the end is something else that I also had an issue with, because it was a little bit inconclusive. It was a little bit unsatisfying for me as a reader. I just felt like I didn't get any of the closure that I needed. However, the atmosphere in a small town, the character development, I really enjoyed that. I love true crime, as you guys know, so I did like this kind of interview back and forth between Michael and Marie. But like I said, the problem was that nothing much happened in the book. And it's just dragging a little bit in the middle, so I can see why it's not going to be for everybody. If you love true crime and interviews, you know, typical interviews that you see in some movies or documentaries about serial killers, then this might be for you. And now let's go to another book that I also have kind of mixed feelings about, and that is In Every Generation by the same author, Kendara Blake. It was just coincidence that I ended up picking up 2 of her books this month. And this one I picked up obviously because it is basically a book based on Buffy the Vampire Slayer universe. It's supposed to be a continuation of the TV show, but with a new generation of Slayers. So of course I was immediately interested. I've been obsessed with that show since I was a teenager, and I used to watch it with my dad, and so of course I had to pick this up. And I have to admit that especially at the beginning, you do get the feel, you know, when the pacing, the story, it kind of reminded me of those first seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And all in all, when I finished reading the book, I had the feeling that I had watched a 2-part episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in a way. So it's kind of like I have mixed feelings with this book. I like the idea that we are bringing a new generation of characters to new readers that might not be so familiar with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm not sure if this book is gonna work as well for people that have no knowledge at all of the show. If you've never seen the show, let me know if you pick up this book and what you thought about it. I'll be really curious to know. One thing that was, I guess, my biggest disappointment with this book was Willow's character. I didn't like the way she was portrayed and her sexuality. I didn't like the way that they explain her getting pregnant, stuff like that. So yeah, there were many things that I didn't really enjoy about her character and her lines in the book. That's something that didn't really vibe with me. And there are many other lines in the book about you know, feminine things and sexual things that I was not 100% on board with, but you know, that's a different topic here. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I felt like the author did bring up many new characters together with the ones that we already know, and she did a good job to present them as good as possible. You know, in a short book with so many characters, they all got a little bit of a background, so we can all start getting attached to the characters. I felt like there were many moments of action and interesting fights. And all in all, you know, I really did enjoy it, so I'm really excited about the sequel. But I guess it was just not as perfect as I wanted it to be. So anyways, this is one that I will be really curious to know what you guys thought of it, because like I said, I kind of have mixed feelings about it. Tales from the Typewriter by Mark Allen Gunnels. There is not too much I can tell you about this one because it's a short novella, so I don't want to spoil the fun. But honestly, this was such a good story because there is stories within the stories, and they're all creepy little stories. And I like the fact that it's about a guy that buys this old typewriter that used to belong to a horror author, and the typewriter starts typing stories in the middle of the night, and he reads those little stories. So in a way, it was a little bit like Tales from the Crypt, I guess. And I really did enjoy this one. So if you're looking for a novella, something short to read that has like little short stories here and there, I would really recommend you to pick this one up. Scream Queen by Stephanie Sparks, and this one was such a joy. It was such a great start of 2022. This is the first book that I picked up when the year started, and after that it kind of all went downhill. But this one was just perfect. It is basically about a girl that lives in a small town and she has to uncover the dark secrets of this town if she wants to make it out alive. It sounds like a very typical premise, but this book was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. And this is also a short one if you're looking for something short to read. And as it happened to me with The Babysitter by Stephanie Sparks, and the reason why I kept looking for her other works is that she always has something unexpected, some twist that you don't expect to see in horror. It's kind of like a little bit defying the horror tropes a little bit sometimes, and I think that's what really makes me love her writing. Becca has been chosen to be the new Harvest Queen for this season, and at the beginning she's really excited, you know, but then she starts to realize that becoming the Harvest Queen comes with a prize, a really high prize. So she starts to get suspicious about this festival and she starts investigating and making some interesting discoveries. So like I said, this one definitely 100% recommend you guys to pick up. Absolutely loved it. I still feel like this is an author that I never heard about, and I randomly picked up The Babysitter last year, Kill the Babysitter last year, and I absolutely loved it. And I feel like, you know, we have to push her a little bit more. Alright guys, so this is everything that I managed to read in the month of January 2022. Not a great start in the year, but you know, tomorrow is another day, February is another month, so we're hoping. And yeah, let me know down below, you guys, if you read any of these books, if you're interested about any of these, and what is the best book that you read in the month of January. Let's talk about it in the comments down below. Thanks so much, you guys, for watching. Please give the video a big thumbs up for support, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!